since Y2K in 2012. So not sure which calendar is supposed to end this year or what global tragedy is waiting us. That
Oh
will be,
man, can I
yeah,
say the content calendar?
yeah. That's already. I don't know if that one ends or hasn't even really started yet or been finalized. But yeah, good point.
Oh man,
Content calendar is one of those.
I think the I'm on the tip of like, can you even do it? Content calendars as they once were. We're gonna talk about why today, but yeah, man, things are changing. Like as far as I'm all about just creating the space for authenticity to happen. And the more you try to calendar the hell out of everything and say, we're going to do this on this day at this time because of this reason, like a lot harder to be authentic, in my opinion, when that is the
I have
feel.
some thoughts about that, but I know that we're gonna get into it. But yes, I agree. It is hard to plan out a. I would say that you can. Brendan says this all the time, but there's freedom in a framework. So there's some stuff that might require content um, seasonally or by date or whatever. But if you know, if OpenAI is acquired tomorrow, right? This is all speculative. This is just a stupid example. Then wouldn't that change some of the stuff you were going to talk about? wouldn't that wouldn't that make stuff go out the window? So you can have a framework and you can have some themes and whatnot, but yeah, scheduling out until Christmas is just it's a fool's errand to me. Waste of time
Yes.
because it's going to change or be updated to some extent.
Yep. And then when it is changed or when it is updated, then anybody who spent time on the thing, yeah. So,
That said, we have just are finalizing our content calendar for the year
right.
this week. So you know, it is a framework more than a written or public. That's more of a framework than anything.
Yeah. No, and I think that's the best you can do right now because you obviously need to know your audience and you need to know what you're even capable of creating content about, right? What you can help that audience with. But beyond that, like the more you try to prescribe, the more you end up not relevant, like in my opinion. Or you open up the risk for that. And we're about to watch a video. Rob hasn't seen it yet. Um, I got about 6 minutes through before like this changes specifically, I think, community content as it relates to the HubSpot ecosystem and what we've already been seeing related to HubSpot's inbound ability in terms of they did a masterful job. Like they were the OGs on inbound. So naturally, they created this juggernaut of if you Googled something related to marketing or even growth, uh, whether it was related to HubSpot or not, like using the tool or not, you would find their blog, the community, the knowledge base, or the academy, right? And that inbound funnel is still working, but we know that since it's not just a marketing platform anymore, it's a customer platform, the people that come in don't always find the information that they
Yep.
want. So they traffic in places like LinkedIn and Sprocketeer to have some real engaging conversations and get some immediate feedback on the problems that they're dealing with. Uh, and where I've seen the biggest hit, because HubSpot has moved so fast, it's very hard to create the on demand content, the how to's, the tutorials that stay relevant for a long time, if they're even relevant at the time that they're ready, right? Because
Yep.
all HubSpot has to do is change the navigation on you, and all of a sudden, all your videos are out of spec. How have you have you guys like talked about that much? Like in terms of we know we still need to educate people, but
You're
HubSpot's
talking
not
about
making
like
it easy.
Yeah, best practices and updates to content. So let's say like, oh man, what's a popular one? Today's date, right? Like probably up until a point there were creative ways and workarounds and whatnot. Then they launched. Now there's an update, or those videos are either, to your point, like require an update or an enhancement or addendum or are obsolete entirely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's the speed of updates and like new features being shorter or faster, however you want to internalize that, delays almost some of the education and training and enablement because you don't have, let's say that the old way was like one update a week. Well, you have not much to do, and then you have some time to build it, and then that's fine on that product line or that feature or whatever for, I don't know, a month. That's not necessarily the case anymore. It's a lot. I mean, because of all the functionality of not just HubSpot but multiple tool. Clay is a good example of this. Like they do a really good job of leaning into UGC for their content strategy because even they, you know, it's it's kind of the HubSpot play. They're not even sure what all it can do and what use cases are for, but it does require either somebody to be devoted, dedicated to being that like enablement resource to create updated content and best practices, or it involves just a ton more people, experimenting and creating stuff, which gets us back into like community content and how you're about to tell me with this video that there's a game changer.
Yeah. Exactly.
What is this video? You said it was some software assistant or some real time.
Perfect lead in. Let me share
Hey
my
man, I've been doing
screen.
this with you for a minute.
I know. Um, this gets to the point that I'm going to make too. like, like prep can prevent a lot of the spontaneity and um, the space that this stuff needs to just let things happen the way that they need to in a way that will hit right. Um, so the end of tutorials, Rob, is how we. I had to click on it. Honestly, I saw that. I recognize this person. This guy grew up in the space as like the Microsoft. Like if whenever I looked up anything related to Excel, like I would find one of his videos. He used to work for Microsoft.
Yeah.
A couple years ago, went on his own. Haven't watched one of his videos in a very long time. I'll say that. Um, but the end of tutorials question mark. This free AI changes how you learn software forever.
That's a strong hook.
Yes. And uh, yeah, so Google AI Studio um, can jump on with you, screen share. It can see your screen, and then uh, this is what happens. Let me know if you can't hear it.
The main interface. Over on the left-hand side navigation, let's click on the option that says Stream Real Time. So what is Stream Real Time? Well, over here, it tells us that you can start interacting in real time.
Now I can't hear it.
You said you can't
I
hear it?
could hear it, and then it quit playing.
All right. That was me messing around with speakers. Um, so let me go back and mute myself.
This reminds me of um, the remote in stuff, but live, real time, and without another human.
Hi. This is especially helpful if you're trying to learn new software where you really want that interactive feedback. Down at the very bottom, we can click on this icon so the AI can hear your microphone. I'll click on this and then we have to allow it in the browser. I'll click here. The AI can now hear me. Down below, we can also turn it on so the AI can see what we're working on. When I click on this, you can share your camera or your screen. In this case, I want to share my screen, so I'll click on this option. Then I'll get a prompt where I can select what I would like to share with the AI. In the top right-hand corner, I'll click on my entire screen, and here, let me select screen number 2 and then click on share. Hey, can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can hear you.
Fantastic. I need some help with different apps today. Do you think you could do that?
I can try my best to help you with different apps. What do you need help with specifically?
I'm in Microsoft Excel now. Can you see my spreadsheet?
Yes, I can see your spreadsheet. It looks like it has columns for date, units sold, product, and location. What do you need help with in Excel?
Yeah, so I have the product and location in one column, but I would prefer to have two separate columns. How do I do that?
Okay, you want to separate the product and location data into two different columns. To do this, you can use the text to columns feature in Excel. First, select the column that contains both the product and location data, which is column C. Then, go to the Data tab on the ribbon and find Text to Columns. In the wizard, you'll select Delimited since
Hold,
there is
hold
a
on a
comma that
second.
separates.
Oh, am I in the right place right now?
Yes, you're in the right place. With
Okay, so
Text to
I
Columns wizard.
okay, so I have delimited selected. Then what?
Okay, with Delimited selected, you can now click Next in the Text to Columns wizard.
Okay. And then what do I want to use as the delimiter?
The delimiter in this case is a comma and a space. Select the other checkbox, type a comma, then a space in the box, then click Next.
Okay, so I've selected comma. I'll select next.
Okay, now you can click Next.
Okay, I'm going to click on finish.
All right, click on Finish.
Oh, and it looks like I now have a new column with the location. Perfect.
Great, you have successfully separated the product and location into two different columns using the Text to Columns feature. Is there anything else I can assist you with in Excel?
Yeah, I'd like to see the units sold by location. How do I do that?
You can use a pivot table to see the units sold by location. First, select all of your data, including headers. Then go to the Insert tab on the ribbon and click on Pivot Table. In the window that appears, click OK to create a pivot table on a new sheet. Then, in the Pivot Table
Hold
builder
on a
on the right,
second. Okay, so I have my new sheet. I have my pivot table. What do I do here?
okay, now in the Pivot Table Fields pane, you should drag Location to the Rows area and Units Sold to the Values area. This will show you the total units sold for each location in your pivot table.
Nice. And what would I use columns for? What's that for?
The columns area is used to break down the data further. For example, if you drag the product field to the columns area, you'll see a breakdown of how many units of each product were sold in each location. This is useful for comparing how different products perform across different locations.
Any interesting insights here or anything that I should call out to my manager?
Looking at your pivot table, it seems that oatmeal raisin is your top selling product with 23,282 units sold overall, while snickerdoodle is your lowest seller at 18,452 units. Also,
Actually,
while
just a quick point here. It looks like chocolate chip is actually more. Are you sure that oatmeal raisin's the best?
you are absolutely correct, my apologies.
I literally
Chocolate chip is
saw
actually
that
the top
also.
seller with 23,614 units sold, followed by oatmeal raisin with 23,282. Snickerdoodle is still the lowest seller at 18,452. Is there anything else you'd like to explore in the pivot table?
Let's now look at how AI Studio can help us in another application, DaVinci Resolve. If you've never heard of this before, it's free video editing software that I
This is what
personally
we
use to
use.
edit all the videos on my channel. If you want an in-depth tutorial, check out the video down below in the description. I have this clip on my timeline, and I want to zoom in on this clip from the very beginning right up until the end of my clip. How do I go about doing that?
Okay, you want to zoom in on a clip in DaVinci Resolve. Starting from the beginning and continuing to the end of the clip, I can help with that. First, select the clip on your timeline. Then go to the inspector panel. In the inspector panel,
Hold on a
look for,
second. Where's the inspector panel?
okay, you're looking for the inspector panel in DaVinci Resolve. It's
Mhm.
usually located on the upper right side of the screen, near the media pool and mixer panels. Do you
Got it.
see it there?
I see inspector. Yep, I clicked on it.
Okay.
Okay, so how do I slowly zoom in on this clip?
Now that you've selected the clip and opened the inspector panel, look for the transform section where you'll see a zoom parameter. You can animate it by creating keyframes. Do you see that zoom setting?
I see the zoom setting. So I'm at the beginning of the clip. What do I do with the zoom setting?
With the playhead at the beginning of the clip, click the diamond-shaped keyframe icon next to the zoom parameter. This will set the starting zoom level. What zoom level would you like for the beginning of the clip?
I'll just start with 1, just the standard zoom.
Okay, so the zoom is set to 1 at the beginning of the clip. Now move the playhead to the end of the clip. Then what zoom level do you want at the end?
Mm, let's say maybe 1.2 or 1.3, maybe something like that.
Okay, let's set the zoom to 1.24 at the end of the clip. You should now see a keyframe icon appear at the end. Now the zoom will transition smoothly from 1 to 1.24 across the entire clip. Is that the effect you were aiming for?
Oh, look at that. Thanks for the help. That's awesome. Hi, I'm in PowerPoint and I'm pulling together a presentation. Can you see this slide on my screen?
Yeah, this
Yes, I can
is
see your PowerPoint slide. It's titled Future Plans and mentions opening 100 more retail locations for the Kevin Cookie Company next year. Is there anything specific you'd like to discuss about it?
Yeah, we're a fast-growing company. We're opening up a lot of locations. The one thing is I look at this slide here and it doesn't feel that inspiring. I feel like I could make this better. Any recommendations?
Okay, you feel the future plan slide could be more inspiring, and you're looking for recommendations. Is that correct?
Get this AI assistant to plan your perfect agenda so you get
oh
more
my
done
god.
in less time. Remove
That's right.
All right, one way to make this slide more inspiring could be to add some visuals. Perhaps a map showing where these 100 new locations might be. Or maybe a collage of images showcasing happy customers enjoying the
He's
cookies.
gonna pick map.
What do you think about these suggestions?
Yeah, that's a good idea. How would I insert a map in here?
To insert a map, you could use the Insert tab in PowerPoint. Then select Pictures or Online Pictures to find a map image. Alternatively,
Okay,
you
hold
can
on
use
a second. I'm here in online pictures. What should I search for?
since you're talking about new retail locations, you could search for a map of the region or country you plan to expand in. Alternatively, if you
Well,
want to
we're
focus on,
just to jump in here, we're planning on opening stores throughout the world. So maybe I just type in map of world.
okay, a map of the world sounds good given your plans. Do you want to search for a specific type of map, like a political map or a physical map, or just any
Yeah.
map of the world?
What do you think of these options? Which one do you think would work well?
Out of the options shown, the one in the top left corner and the one in the top middle seem like good choices. They both have a clear and easy to read design, and they show all the countries of the world. Would you like to try one of those?
Yeah, let me try this. Let's try inserting that on the slide. Okay. Ooh, that's big.
Yes, the map is quite large. You can resize it by clicking and dragging the corners or edges of the image. Would you like me to walk you through that, or do you have any other ideas for the slide?
No, I think I'm good. This tech is a fantastic example of the positive benefits of AI. You can now learn.
I would have freaked out if he'd put a map in and then ask for, hey, I do have a list of the 100 locations. Can you add a pin or a marker to these 100 spots and see what it looks like? But that is pretty wild, my friend.
Yeah. And immediately, so obviously I'm partial to these live conversations, uh, having done it, I don't know, about 300 times last year, um, as being a way to educate that has not been really fully leveraged before, um, because we have been able to rely on tutorials and how to use in the academy, and yet there's been this gap of, like, clearly there's a knowledge gap. So how do we fill that? Um, Now I see this. Obviously, I want to do some content where we try it out with HubSpot, but like, should we be doing how to's, or should we be helping users learn how to use things like Google AI Studio?
That's a good question. Uh, I don't know the answer to that. Train the trainer is, would scale quicker. So if this were just some, I feel like because it's Google, or because, like, if it's a bigger brand like one of those, there's more of like a trust, or there's more. I know that it's going to just get better from there, as opposed to like a startup or a, something that's a plug-in or something that's not as established or big as Google. But um, that's that's pretty wild. I mean, both are valuable. It may depend on kind of your role. If you're in more enablement, it's like, yes, you want to teach people how to use the tool, but you also want to teach people how to teach themselves to solve their own problems, right? Like, teach a man to fish, feed him for a day, teach a man to use Google Studio, feed him forever. Um, there was
Right.
some there was some weird. Uh, how new is that?
It was 7 hours ago.
Oh, okay, so today.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's bugs
And I
and I'm
think
sure it'll
like
have improvement, but the cursor was amazing. The coolest part to me was like him just, I don't know if this was sped up, hopefully not, but him just saying like, "Hey, hold on to them a minute. I'm looking for this. Where is
yeah,
this?" And then pausing and then saying, "Oh, okay, it's up here." So that was almost the most impressive of any of that was
yeah,
the real-time response rate and the how that's what I
con-
would sound like talking to it. Like
right,
I can't even find the inspection tab. Can you just pause and tell me where that is? That was wild.
right. And that's where like so the conversational aspect, the fact that it doesn't need to like reset the whole prompt, and it kind of does that real time. You can hear it when it confirms what you say every time, which I would appreciate if humans did that uh, when they were trying to help me, so I don't have to re-explain what I'm trying to do every time. Kieran from HubSpot posted a video about this where it was helping him with a landing page, a HubSpot landing page he was working on, looking at language and could the copy be better and all these things. And it's like I think the reason I'm drawn to the conversational content that is a little less planned, a little less structure, is it forces a different style of conversation that teaches, I think, in a different way. But it's also like that's the last bastion that we're talking about as far as humans, the value that a human can provide is all this nuanced conversation and creative thinking in the moment that like that's either not going to do or you're not asking it to do that in those moments. You're like, I'm in my job right now. I ran into this problem. Like, first of all, if I know about this tool, it's way easier for me to just plug it in right now and get him on the line, right? Especially when we know that the first challenge that we highlighted is that it's so hard to keep up with HubSpot. It's hard for any practitioner to create meaningful how-to content, successfully and consistently in a way that gets the results that generally they want to see from a business perspective, that it's creating, you know, either pipeline or brand or whatever. Which brings us to point number two, when we've talked about it at length about connecting with the audience and targeting the audience and how hard it's been for the HubSpot core to start to reach the customer base that has doubled in size, that is starting to differentiate outside of SaaS. Like, how do you target? We haven't. I don't think anybody has successfully targeted the non-super users, like the admin hogs of the world and sprocketeers, and really good at hitting that echo chamber. But then when we meet people that are coming in and trying to use invoices, or they're trying to use these other things and they're in a different industry or they're on a different team than we're used to talking to, it's harder to connect with those people. So it represent. I do believe it's a game changer in every sense of that word. In terms of this is another reason why, if you want to just participate and support the the greater community, you got to find a way to evolve beyond like the one, two, three, like this is how you do it content, and add some substance, add your take, add like your experiences, like from the industry or the roles you've had or something that humanizes the content and
Yeah.
connects, right?
I mean, I have recommendations for that are probably wild, but that's whatever. If HubSpot wants to move into that non-core market, there's some real sociology that goes into that, which is the same shit we're facing now with Salesforce having been, or Dynamics the option for the last 25, 30 years. It's familiarity. Just like your favorite music, I could probably tell you if you told me how old you were, or what year it was when you were 13 or 14. I could tell you those are the songs you like the most. So I would introduce the concept not only of like sheets and segmentation and lists and like computer programming, but that interface within HubSpot in high school. Like those people's best and like most rooted memories or experiences, like not only starting young to like get familiar with to be able to build a library of experience and a catalog of their own recommendations with not just the tool and interface, but like the foundational concepts of data architecture and all of that. Doing it in HubSpot would create almost the same level of loyalty and familiarity and favoritism if you did it in, I don't know if 13 is is the right parallel, but like Votech or like anything in high school or college where that's an option to be able to learn in, do it within those systems. So I don't know what that looks like formally, but that would help. It wouldn't help right now, but let's say you do that in high school, college, those people are going to be operators and moving into those roles within what 5, 10 years. So uh, that's the other thing that you mentioned is like, yes, the recommendations. If you go back in that video, or if you remember, kind of like there's an audio input, which I'd be interested to see what the chat functionality was like. Like, what if you don't have the ability to speak, or what if you don't have a headset? The cursor was awesome, but what it was really good at was sequencing, like AI pattern recognition. Here's what it would look like to do this. Perfect. That's steps. That's 1, 2, 3. That's a tutorial. It's also still mind blowing. But the places it lacked, like I would have predicted that if it asked for a recommendation on the map and there were 14, I didn't like any of them, but it would have gone with the top left, which is probably the most frequently clicked because people just want to click something, or one other random top option on the top row. Because the explanation of like these are the most clearly, no, they're not. Like I wouldn't have agreed with that at all, and I would have been rated it an 11 out of 10 if it had said you can pick any map, but I recommend that do you want me to put pins in these locations? Do you have a list of where they are? That is next, like, that's the future of the insight, is to be able to give something that you weren't thinking of yourself. The explanation there on, like, what would a good recommendation look like versus what is the best recommendation based on, like, the AI's experience. That's different. That would be, to me, like I said, like an 11 out of 10 experience. Oh, you're muted now.
Thank you. That's where we start to get to like the agent land,
Yes.
because if you're working with an agent that is capable of doing multi-step, like they're asking you questions prior to going to and telling you, like, so in that case maybe they say, oh, do you have a list of 100 locations, like, because I'm about to tell you, like, bam, here's your map with all the pins in it, right? And which one of these do you like instead of these random maps? um
I would like AI to become more of a stern, demanding butthead. That would show progress to me. Where if you go and prompt and ask it something like that, it's going to ask you for some clarity before it does anything, right? Like,
yeah,
hey, which one of these maps is the best? I recommend the. You had no context. Like,
right.
so once AI can start to challenge back, have you ever heard of Akinator?
I have not.
I hadn't either until yesterday. It's basically Zoltan or 20 questions or whatever. It's a site. But somebody showed me that yesterday, and it was like anything that you pick or think in your head, it'll figure out what it is in 25 questions or less. And we were talking about uh, work and revenue and creating a graphic. So I was like, how about a bow tie? That's pretty random. 24th question, it it asked, like it figured it out. So if AI could start to do that almost as a response, so I say, hey, can you make a recommendation, or can you tell me what you think about ABC, whatever? It says, sure, I'd love to help with that. Let me make sure, the confirming prompt. Let me make sure you want to, yes, that is what I want. Okay, cool. Can you answer these clarifying questions so that I'm able to provide the best possible response? Like, I don't know. I haven't seen that. You're in this more than I am,
You can,
but I haven't seen that as like a common response of like asking for more clarity on things that isn't a I feel like humans in a chat, because that was what it was for, is like a tutorial or a chatbot or whatever. But when a human comes on for the chatbot and is like, give me a little more info, that's not the autofill. That's the only one of the only things to me that still like differentiates the experience.
Right. Yeah, and you do have to prompt it right now because it's definitely like on your side until you tell it to challenge you. But also the phrase that immediately switches uh, is AI native. Like I want I want to hear your take, like AI. Always the first thing. It immediately switches from suggesting things to me to asking questions like of me, like
Yeah,
before it will move forward. Right. And that's been one of the like confirmation points where I know it's kind of switched because up until that it's like just like sprays recommendations at me and it's like what do you want to do, Chris?
yeah,
And then it changes to like I ask it's basically I'm handing over like no, you're in charge of this conversation now, like,
yes.
and I will take your lead, but when I you have to explicitly say that's how you want it to go, right? Which is powerful when you can do that because often that's what we need as practitioners. We need somebody to ask us better questions so that we can think through stuff.
I'm taking a note right now because I'm gonna go figure this out later. Uh, Stand by.
Yeah,
I
I've had
said
it
I
work with
wanted.
at least Claude and GPT. Like if you just say AI native, it's
That's
like
the transit. So, what kind of quality, like how high would you rate the quality of the questions you're being asked? Because I would put as a caveat, you need to segment. There's different reasons to use GPT or AI for either. We just looked at one tutorials. I don't know how to do this. I need help, right? And then there's steps, the response, or um, like research data pulling, like tell me, give me numbers on like how many of this. So I would recommend, I would think that the recommendations are very structured and segmented on like how it's going to respond based on how, like what you're looking for. But a lot of the time what I just wrote down was like, what do you want to eat? If a chatbot if AI can tell my wife what we're going to eat, that would require a lot of context, a lot of questions, right? So if the quality of the questions to get to a response that's truly innovative and solves the problem of the the person interacting, so the user, they themselves do not know and they don't have any recommendations or don't have any context themselves, that would be phenomenal, right? If they logged in and were like, I don't even know what a pivot table is, what kind of data, like what kind of
yeah,
insights. I also thought was really interesting that the bot got it wrong the first time. I don't know how that's possible, but that was kind of weird. But if was starting at ground zero, other than I was good at prompting an AI, how would it then walk me through all of that? Like, is that a capability, or would it recommend like, hey, I recommend you go and read up on this because you're going to be here for 5 hours. It's obvious that you know nothing at all, and here's where I would start. Right, is not in this type of environment, but somewhere else. Would it provide
right.
recommendations like that as well?
Yes. Yeah. And that's where if you take the time to say like, what am I missing here? How could this be better? Like
Yeah,
open-ended questions. Like, because we go in, like you're taught to be like, we need to prompt the hell out of it with the perfect framing and but like once you get in the flow and you've confirmed that we're aligned on what we're trying to accomplish and what the context is basically, you start to give it open-ended situations. And some my favorite part is before that, even before that, it does enough of that like suggestioning at the end where I never know how the conversation is going to go exactly because one of those suggestions might trigger an idea and then we dig into that. And that's where it's like, oh yeah, let's dig into I love that idea. Tell me what that looks like, right?
yes,
And now the result is quite different than what you're planning on. And it becomes a collaborative. I think that ultimately, if you can treat AI tools as a collaborative thought partner in a lot of cases, like that's when you get, the best results. But I was gonna, like, in response to your query about what might happen, I was gonna, let me just confirm I could show this. Here, I'll ask the question first. Um, but what was the question? Like, if I said, like, how would you go about deciding dinner
Yeah.
with my
What I said
wife?
was, what does my wife want to eat for dinner? Which is pretty funny, but true. We never know. So,
So, how would you go about determining what my wife would like to eat for dinner?
what if it says, "Is this Rob again?" You know, I don't know how to figure that out. It seems you've logged in from a different location, Mr. Jones.
Yeah. All right. And this is where, I mean, there's a ton of variables involved. Like, and this is outside of a project, so there's just no like pre-planned instructions being given. But there is like custom instructions, like in the preferences about how I like to talk and things like that.
Yeah.
We also have, these how should Claude write responses? Normal, concise, explanatory, formal, right? Um, so first key consideration would be building from what you already know about your wife's preferences and patterns.
Yeah.
Think about factors like, uh, I don't know, does this resonate?
I mean, some of it I would have guessed, like, what has she eaten recently, right? That's that literally is the first thing on there. That's what I would have said. Food
Right.
allergens, right? It kind of gets into preferences, seasonality,
There we go.
yeah, energy level. Yeah,
Gauging her energy level and day experience, as this often influences food preferences.
that is a new nugget. I did not. I mean,
Something
it's
we're
cold
probably
here.
not very good at sometimes.
Yeah, I'm probably the worst, but it's like sleeting, rain, and cold and whatever. So like that would be the other question I would think it would ask. Would you find that some specific conversation start? So it's like if it's helpful for you to make a recommendation, like it's cold outside. I live in this area, right? Like, could you select or provide a top three options from this geo that are within 20 minutes drive time? So it definitely needs more just from this response context and clues and whatever. So you could almost like respond like that, like, well, energy levels are low. Here's some other stuff that you didn't ask about, Claude, which is here's where we live. Here's the temperature, that kind of stuff.
This is more approachable than asking, what do you want to eat?
Yeah,
Which can sometimes feel overwhelming.
yeah. I could. This is karma
What
coming
kind of
back. Like,
flavors are you in the mood for today? Um, are you feeling something warm and comforting, uh, or light and fresh? See, I think our goal is that somehow the wife is interacting with Claude asking these questions and not us necessarily. Um,
I mean, if we wanted to get to the core of the psychology is that I just think that this is more really for me because I'm also like I don't know. Is that I'm indecisive. I don't know, and at a certain point, I don't want to be asked any more questions because I don't know how to answer them
yes,
any more helpfully than apparently this does. So it's like that to me is the next prompt, or maybe that's a tonality or a formal style. Like you could almost prompt it to say, really the key isn't about what she wants, it's about what she doesn't want, and that's to make a decision, right? Because you um, for whatever reason, right, is like I picked last time, or I don't really know what I'm in the mood for. So part of that interestingly is like personality based from our side. And I think that the prompting or stone tile, the tone style of how you would like it to respond, you can almost manipulate and just say that, like, Claude, this isn't really about food sometimes. I just don't want to pick. Like, can you
right.
narrow down a list from these things? And I bet it would be
Yeah.
able to spit something out that was, in the ballpark. Really, really interestingly, there might be new restaurants or new places or menu items or dishes that we were not previously aware of that it could also contribute to. But there was good stuff in there. It's like the energy
Yeah.
thing, the seasonality thing, the previous day. That this might indicate a need for comfort food. That's
Yeah.
I
After
got
a
it
high
now.
energy day, she might be more open to trying something new.
Right. Exactly. Yes. So that
Right.
man, that's wild.
Yeah. Now all we have to do is pay attention to energy levels.
I know.
No
I need to
problem.
just ask her, like, hey,
I mean, I
what's your
remember
energy?
on some lunch teams or on some teams that like we would just there would be like a menu of places like 20 like and then we just roll 20 cider and then just everybody was agreed whatever whatever we roll that's where we're going for lunch. How
Yes.
much of this is just wanting something else to make the decision like no matter how it gets made.
Yeah, but that's also so we're talking about segmentation of like what types of need is it? Is it discovery? Is it research? Is it list segmentation, training, tutorial, enablement? Like, but from almost knowing from asking like, what do I want to eat to like, what's the real problem here? If there's almost training, this gets into like Hollywood shit, really. But training ChatGPT to know your tendencies on what you like, what you want, what you don't want, how you communicate, how it could help you. The weirdest, I think this will be, and you probably have already seen or had this happen. But when AI foundationally at this point, probably not for much longer if it's still like this, requires some sort of input. But if Claude could provide a notification to you, like the moment of inspiration for these bots, right? If Claude could say, "Hey, Chris, you recently asked about like what you wanted to eat, and I wanted to let you know that within your driving preferences, based on your energy levels from this app data I got on your resting heart rate and whatever else, and you haven't eaten here in a couple of days, you might want to try this new ramen spot. It's 7 minutes, like without you having to prompt it at all.
By the end of the year.
By the end of 2025, it'll know.
Yes.
Is that
I mean,
what level are we on with that now? Like percentage wise, zero. I mean, does that happen at all in any kind of context or?
I think it just takes work, right? Like I think like Dharmesh just made a post about being able to tie sleeping patterns, like sleeping data,
Yeah,
to like sales transcripts to understand like, oh, of course you were a dick. Like he didn't say this, but of course you were a dick in this conversation because you only got 3 hours of sleep.
yeah,
Like duh, right? And I I had a Whoop bracelet for a few months, end of 23, I think. And immediately it came to mind like, okay, if we have all that data and we just connect it to what you're talking about, which that's the last piece is the connectivity of all this stuff. Once there is ultimate connectivity, just like you could say, we've always been able to like do a like Google notifications where anytime there's news about this thing,
yeah.
right? Now it's just ever present in a way, right? We're just telling an agent, like our assistant, almost like it's like the human assistant that, some people have the luxury of saying, hey, I want you to care about all these things on my behalf. And
Yeah.
whenever you think it might be a good idea to tell me about it, I want you to tell me about it.
If you're going to say that that'll be the case by connectivity, I think is the right word, Chris. Like, um, but even that requires somebody competent enough to connect, right, and be able to build that into like a singular package, which I know people are working on. But if you're saying but that by the end of 2025 that'll be the case, then I'm going to say by Q2 2026 it'll be ruined with ads and spam and shit that you don't want to see ever, which
Nope.
is like based on what like 50 times a day it'll be like you need some new Reebok running shoes because you ran one time from an attacker 8 years ago. My knees messed up, so I'm kind of bitter. But do you think that'll be the case, or will that change the economics of it to where in order to block those ads, you're gonna have to upgrade your subscription, or you're gonna have to do something to behind some sort of paywall to turn off recommendations, or could you filter that through, if I have to pay for it, I don't want you to tell me about it.
Well,
Like, I just want to know things without being sold to. Is How
and
fair do you think
that's
that
what you
is?
tell your agent.
Yeah.
Like Kieran also shared a video last week about the the founder of Perplexity talking about how paid ads will need to target agents now
That's even
because
scarier.
agents are making the decisions. But I believe, like, why in the hell would an AI agent need an ad? Like, the whole reason for advertising is based on scarcity and trying to grab attention that you didn't have already.
Yep.
Like, if AI has access to all of your product information, and Claude said it much better than me, and I made a couple posts about it, but basically, AI can access all the information that in this world that we're describing, AI can access all the information, and it's not just about product specs, right? Text and specs. It can see LinkedIn. It can see the social narrative about your brand. It can see testimonials. It can see G2. It can see all these things. And if you're not there, you will not be able to pay for a well placed ad to try and trick somebody into buying your product or paying attention to you because the agent will always be taking into account this whole spectrum. So I think there's things like paid ads that were built for an industrial age that is almost gone.
Yeah.
And this might be the last year that you can transition on your own accord. Because when we get to 26, and once this connectivity happens and everybody starts using this super convenient technology, like I'll be interested to see. And I know that people they do these jailbreak experiments where they try to trick the AI into doing something it's not supposed to be doing. Like, I'll be very impressed if somebody figures out how to do that with ads and it lasts,
Yeah.
because that's inherently not how AI is designed to work. And if it's truly trying to serve the instructions that you gave it,
Yeah.
the advertising will never serve those instructions.
Okay. So a couple thoughts there. I know we're running out of time. Have you been on the front page of Google lately? With any
Like,
sort of question, like, if you were talking about, like, if you're not out there in the ecosystem or community or like findable, if you then it's not going to find you whether you have an ad or not. There's almost like this tertiary or whatever four is, like, removed effect from, okay, I can't pay an ad, well then I'll just rank higher or I'll just be everywhere. And so then you employ bots or agents to create content just so that it's like, well, according to Google or according to where at the entire history of the internet, the thing that's most searched for, like, you know what's the best way to search for this is Google. And it'll pull, like, so the level of prompt, I think both are going to get more intense as AI's functionality scales and the whole ad. There's tons of stuff there. The antithesis of that is people trying to figure out and getting better at paying for rankings or paying for search or duping the system with jet. Like, that's going to get better too. Just like, infosec security, so all of that has gotten better. So have the hacking attempts, like, so has the other side of the coin. So I think that's kind of what, other than, like, T1000 spawning out of that video you showed me, I think people are worried about that too. Maybe it's not like into the world anymore, but it's the last thing I need is is Claude or my LLM or my GPT telling me, like, selling to me or putting incorrect, inaccurate information in, making bad recommendations. Like, that would, there's already, like, and this, like, varying levels of mistrust and paranoia and anticipation of, like, what is this end result going to look like, and what is a half a year from now going to look like. To me, that would be the most annoying, is having that connectivity and functionality, and then it's abused or used as a way to promote something that may not be of my best interest.
Right. And that's the thing. As long as AI is doing things in your best interest, it's it's
And now we turn into iRobot. That with that, like even you're like, what? Who knows what my best interest is better, me or Claude, right? Like that's the scary like philosophical questions. That was Vicky from from
right.
iRobot, right?
Yeah, I mean that's why Nico and I are gonna change tones on our show. Like there's a lot of sci-fi movies that have,
Yeah,
figured this out already.
yeah. I'm not
And
really
we
one of those. Most of this is just to be a contrarian, but it is rooted in philosophical interests of the product and just being more conservative with like uh I can see a lot of the use cases and obviously the advantages and benefits. I can also see a situation in where it creates more friction or more annoyance if it's not deployed really, really well.
right, and that's why I say like as long as it's in the interest of the user, it'll be very hard for it to do that. Like because for these reasons here, right? Like, and we'll close on this, but I just wanted to. Most of the time, I love Claude because it articulates things that I feel in a way that I cannot articulate in a much more digestible way. Um, but it, if we're talking about AI decision making, because I said it seems silly to me that agents would even need advertising to make decisions,
Yeah,
right? Um, and So to make this, it's misaligned with how agents would actually make decisions. They're likely have direct access to comprehensive data, make decisions based on objective criteria and pattern matching, share successful outcomes automatically through connected systems. This part, learn continuously from collective experiences.
yeah,
We forget way too fast as humans, or we selectively remember, right? And then optimize for is this serving the request? Like, is this what I was told to purchase, basically, based on everything I learned about this user,
yeah,
right? And so that's where, like, in order to show up, there will be, it'll be harder and harder to dupe the system, right? Tell and sell versus show and tell. Like, I love how I put that. Like, so rather than paid advertising,
yeah.
genuine
It,
measurable value, we talk about that all the time.
this all reads as if it's more communal anyway, and it's more like karma, like Reddit based, where I know there's rankings and like you can review agents whether they helped or not. Also, like they can be downvoted into oblivion. There's that concept. The other, I guess, like interesting thing from that is if agents not even having the need, that's a really interesting and cool answer. But if there is a this is a what we should talk about next time, governance, right? Like are those rules just its response, or is that actually out there to where an agent can be disbanded if if it's seen as something that violates those like rules of engagement for how it's supposed to operate? Now we're getting into Smith and unplugging. So man, this is
Yeah,
so fun to see real examples of this and ask these questions, man. I appreciate
it
it.
is. It's the only way to learn right now. Like, if
Yeah,
anybody's like, that's the thing. It's all free to go and start learning how this stuff works. Because it's coming. It's coming to a desktop, a workstation, a phone near you if you're not already using it. So it's man, if you could just embrace that, it's a part of the community now. Uh, because we got Agent AI coming. Dharmesh is making a lot of progress there, and that's how he views the whole thing. That's where if you can understand, he's not just building agents or a platform to do stuff for people,
yeah.
right? It's a network of agents, like a social network of agents. So he's already treating it like a community, alongside and supportive of the community that he's been serving for, 20 years, right?
He's the OG.
Who better to do
Yeah,
that? right? I'm so excited that we still have somebody like that. And that gives me hope, of course, when you have a founder or the idea man like that, because this is so much intention, like the best intentions, like create great products, and like I trust, right, when I know what his focus has been on, like he's never wavered, that he is a positive force for helping this stuff go in the right direction, right?
Yeah.
Uh, so we'll be continuing to have some diverse conversations here to help everybody in the community adjust. And this doesn't replace you. I'll say that over and over. It gives us all the time. It gives us all more time back to be more human, to be relationship focused, like we've been talking about in all of our other episodes.
Yeah.
So
I love that.
if you have questions, don't hesitate to reach out. Um, and until next time, have an awesome weekend, man.
You too, buddy. See ya.
See ya.